Most investors listen to earning call in a wrong way. They treat con calls like a information session where they look for numbers, guidance, updates, and done. But that's not the right way to do it. Because information doesn't create any edge anymore. So everyone has same PDF, same transcript, same screener. But the real edge is to decipher those transcripts, those concalls, and understand what management is trying to communicate. Hi everyone, my name is Gaurav and welcome back to my channel. Today in this video, I will give you exact framework which will help you to read the con call and more importantly, understand what management is trying to communicate with you. And we'll also try to understand how to use these AIs like Chatgpt to decipher the tone, clarity, confidence of a management. Now think about it. When the number is being reported, it basically tells you about the past. But Concall is the real window via which we'll be able to understand and judge the future. Whether the same numbers can be repeated again, whether the catalyst or growth which has been mentioned is real or not, whether company is really confident, whether the management is confident or not. All these things can be easily judged and understood via reading or listening to Concall. And this is where the most of the investor make mistake. They don't judge. They don't question confidence. They don't catch evasive answers. They don't notice when the management is unsure, not confident, or it's pretty much scripted. Because we cannot directly meet the management, Concall is the way to understand or judge the management. And today we'll also use ChatGPT to help us in the process. Now we are not using ChatGPT just to summarize the Concall. That's useless. And the real power of AI is not to summarize the information, but to understand the pattern, confidence, tone, and clarity of the management. And that is where we'll use the AI like ChatGPT to help us. So if you're listening Concall like a podcast, then that's not right way. So let's go ahead and fix that. Now let's start with the section 1, which is a very important one, creating a mental framework or mental model, how to think while reading or listening to Concall. Before I talk about frameworks and questions and everything, it's very important for us to understand that Concall is not about note taking, right? It's about thinking and understanding what exactly management is trying to communicate. So how to do that? And best way to do that is to have a mental framework or mental model which could be used for every con call. So while listening a con call, I'm constantly asking 10 questions. It's a very direct questions which you basically need to answer while reading the con call. The first question is what changed this quarter? So it could be growth, margin, cost, volume, management, product, premium versus commodity. Something might have changed, or has something changed this quarter? That is what we are trying to identify. The second one is what stayed same, whether the problem which was discussed last quarter is still same, whether the margin is still same, whether the bottleneck which they have highlighted last quarter is still there, or the catalyst or growth they have mentioned, which has really helped the company to do well, is still there. And third one is where the growth actually coming from. So it could be, let's say, volume, price, geography, product, could be anything. The fourth question is that growth sustainable? This is very important because the moment you will understand the answer of this question, you will be able to differentiate whether the catalyst is structural or is just cyclical or seasonal. Fifth one is what is happening to the margin and why. So basically we're looking for raw material cost, margin pressure, operating leverage. The sixth one is what is management promising going forward. So is it a short term, long term growth they are promising? Are they just promising hopes or dreams, or do they really have a proper plan to capture those demand which is coming? The next one is, are management under promising or over promising? This is very important because this tells us about the credibility and maturity of a management. We always prefer management to under promise and then over deliver versus over promise and under deliver. Market not going to react positively for the later version management. The next one is what are the real risks, not the generic one but the one which is really going to impact the margin or the bottom line. As an investor, we want to understand that, do the numbers match the story? So from past many quarters, management has been highlighting a lot of growth, a lot of catalyst, a lot of positiveness, but it never got reflected in the numbers. So we want to understand the reason behind that. And last one is, and which is very important for me, is after this con call, do I trust this management more or less? This is the final filter for me because everything comes down to this. After reading the con call, if you can answer these 10 questions, or if you have an answer to these 10 questions, then you are pretty much sorted. You are pretty much have done a decent analysis on that company. You don't have to worry about any outside opinion. More or less, you'll have a decent investment thesis about a company by just answering these 10 questions. Okay, now let's enter from questions to execution. Now, the next challenge is execution. So imagine you have more than 20, 30 companies you are tracking quarterly and then reading con calls of those companies, tracking manually, catching small changes in tones and languages. I mean, it becomes quite difficult and quite cumbersome, right? So this is where the Chat GPT comes in. So I use AI tool named Chat GPT. It really helps me to structure my overall analysis. Now, before I talk about prompts and the AI tool ChatGPT, please be mindful that ChatGPT is not doing any thinking for us. It doesn't understand the context. It doesn't understand what exactly important for us and what is not important for us. It doesn't know if you are a growth investor or value investor and what is the output we want from this tool, right? So we are the one who will define those structures, and this is where those 10 questions comes in a picture. We are the one who will define those prompts, and we are the one who will basically tell the chat gpt what to look for in those con calls and transcripts. Okay, so please be aware that we are not totally relying on chat gpt to do summarization or do any thinking for us. So if you see the image, that's what I have mentioned here. So the 10 questions every earning call must answer, right? Whether you're doing manually or using chat gpt, doesn't matter. The questions, I mean, I've already done the thinking for you. So, and based on that, I have basically segregated into 6 pillars. So numbers, we are looking for guidance, tone and languages, catalyst, weakness and risk, and cross checks and stories versus numbers. Yeah. And the last is, once you have decided the question, then you are basically giving prompts to use within the chat gpt, and I will share those prompt with a live example. Right, so let's quickly deep dive into those prompts which I was talking about and how to use this chat gpt to execute those prompts. Okay, the first one is prompt 0, which is role and output expectation. So here we are basically telling chat gpt how to act, but what are the role, and we are basically requesting how the output should look like. Basically, ChatGPT says that we logged in, a tool is ready to do any analysis and interpretation. Okay, now we'll simply upload all the transcripts. So today I'm basically using a TD Power. I have already downloaded all the transcripts. Now we have to upload those transcripts, probably last 3 to 4 quarters. So I prefer last 4 quarters. So we just simply choose it or upload it. Okay, and then we give the prompt one. The prompt one, which is the first one, is the pillars, that is numbers, right? And here we are not asking for absolute numbers. We are asking chat gpt to look for a stability and direction and any quality of earning, so show that. Okay, so this is the prompt. Okay, so these are the key takeaways. I mean, in terms of top line trajectory, is pretty much fine and showing the strong H1 versus the prior H1. Margin is stable, but the massive dependency on foreign exchange. Cash conversion cycle is the weak link, and then lot of evidences, further details like EBITDA, margin, PAT driver. So if you see here, the PAT has jumped 51%, but if you look properly, it's mainly because of your foreign exchange gains, right? It's a one-off. So this is not the quality bottom line. The next one or next prompt which I generally look for in a con call is about the guidance. So what is the expectation from the management? What is the tone like? How's the tone like? Is it a confident or is it a cautious tone? And if the guidance has been raised, maintained, or diluted, right? So this is the prompt which I have framed for this part. Okay, so now the output is basically explaining the guidance trajectory and if it is credible or not. Again, I'm not going to go into details in TD Power. You can definitely go through this video. But in nutshell, if I have to summarize, they have been giving conservative guidance here, and the initial guidance was around 1500 crore, and they are expecting in fiscal 27 to move to almost 19 to 20 billion. A margin guidance, they have kept it very tighter because there is a massive dependency on tariff. The third one, which I basically prompt, which I look in the con call, is for the tone and the language, whether the tone is calm or defensive. Now, do they own those problems or issues, or is it's more of like or giving more excuses? So the prompt for that, which I have created, is this. Okay, opening opening remark stayed calm, but as Q&A started with the analyst, there generally the tone get tightened, especially when the questions about cash flow come, because that is another big headache which we have known from the output of first a prompt. And the last line, if you read, tone shifted before cash number improved. That's a not a red flag, but that's a credibility watch which we wanted to keep, right? Now, the next prompt is catalyst of future earning. This is the most important prompt for me. So once we have understood the management tone, guidance, we want to see what are the parameters or what are the factors which can affect the company's growth. Basically, we are looking for what actually drives the company's earning. Is it more of a narrative, or do we see any execution in the past? And is it a new catalyst, or repeated, or they have just upgraded the existing catalyst? Okay, so this is the prompt. So this is the output, and the main takeaway here for TD Power is that the main core engine earning is still export led demand. Biggest bottleneck, and which they really have to fix in short term, is plant 3 commissioning, because that is the one which will help the company to ramp up quickly and contribute to the revenue. Okay. And then at the bottom, this prompt will help you to map those catalysts, so from where it has picked. So what are the catalysts, which class it is, whether new, repeated, or upgraded, right? And evidence, income statement linkage. So this table itself for any company will help you to create a very decent investment thesis. Okay, the next prompt which I have is prompt 5, which we're basically talking about the weaknesses and risk. So what is acknowledged, what is downplayed, and what analysts keep pushing on. I mean, this is the prompt which I have framed. Okay, so as I said, cash conversion was the single biggest problem which they have to fix very quickly. Capacity ramp up, plant 3 has to be commissioned. So that's again a big risk if this doesn't go well, even though the demand is there, but the supply side will become an issue. Some of the growth parameter which they have highlighted, it lacks conversion visibility. Okay, and then bottom, basically this prompt will give you a risk register. So what are the key risks and which is the big one? The last prompt, which is about promise versus delivery. So whether the management is under promising, over delivering, or vice versa. Basically here we are tracking the trust trajectory over time, because this is the simplest way to track the trust of a company, or track the trust of the management. Okay, so for that, this is the prompt which I have framed. Okay, so this is the output we have received. Now just quickly to summarize. So here the management is basically under promising and partial delivering. Why not over promise or under deliver? It basically says that revenue, margin, order inflow largely match or exceed the anchored guidance, but the cash flow is the problem, which that is why they are under like partial delivering. Now, if in future, let's say next few quarters, two parameter, like if CFO improves and the conversion improves from EBITDA to CFO, and if plant 3 commissioning happen and output evidence has been seen, then they become under promise and over deliver, and then market will start re-rating these kind of candidates quickly. And the last is, once all the prompts are run from the Concall perspective, I simply run this one, which is a final synthesis. Okay, and this is nothing but a summary of all the discussions and what are the important points which I need to monitor coming quarter. Okay, so this is the prompt for that one. This will basically summarize entire thesis from 6 to 36 month view, which I have given. You can of course increase and decrease. Overall verdict is bull, but with the execution risk, of course. And then these are the key risks which they have highlighted. Why it is not completely bull, because of these three problems, and that is why these are the 5 parameter, 5 things which you want to monitor in the next few quarters. So overall bottom line is that earning trajectory is attractive, capacity demand compounding story, but next 1 or 2 quarters will decide about the credibility of the management, because growth potential is there, but the converting those growth into the real numbers, that will be something we want to track in long term. Let's just pause for a second and just realize that what exactly just now happened using the Chatgpt. Using this AI tool, we extracted all the key informations, which includes our numbers, catalyst, risk, guidance, tone, language, and overall we synthesized and created a small investment thesis at the end. So in ideal world, it will take approximately 30 to 40 minutes for you to do this entire process. Now, if you do this manually, you have to read 4 concalls. You have to first of all create those mental frameworks and queries, and you have to track all the 4 concalls and map them, highlight them. Chances are that you will miss a lot of points. Now this AI tool, we are not expecting this AI tool to do to make a decision for us, but it kind of structurized the entire all the concalls, extracted all the key information, and given us in a format which we want. Now it's up to us to make a thesis out of that. So instead of drowning into a lot of informations and taking a lot of more than 4 or 5 hours, we now have a ready-made structurized information for us to work on it and decide on it. Now we have understood how we use ChatGPT to do the execution part of it. Now, every quarter, when the company comes up with a earning report and they do a con call or transcript, I simply download that transcript, upload it in ChatGPT, uh, run the same prompts, same 6 pillars, and look if that consistency is there in terms of tone, catalyst, growth, problems. Is there any changes? All those 10 questions which I have discussed in the start of this video, and that's it. And over the time it builds a very decent pattern. So suppose I'm a tracking company, it basically, that thread itself will give me a end-to-end picture of multiple quarters. And suddenly, let's say if I've exited the business, and after 3-4 years that business again looks interesting to me, ChatGPT will automatically connect the previous quarter's results with this new quarter results, and the tone difference, catalyst growth, what changed, what has not changed, if everything remains same. So it becomes a one memory for one business, and it becomes quite easy for me to track end to end within one thread. So the key philosophy here is to not to be smart, but to be consistent with the AI tool. All right, so let's pause now and quick recap. We started a video by saying that how to think while reading a con call. What are those 10 questions we want to answer while reading or listening to the con calls? And then later on, we use ChatGPT to do the execution for us. Now, your homework is very simple. Pick 4 or 5 companies who have done their con calls and have the transcript available on screen or any portal. Download it, upload on ChatGPT, and then run the prompts and read the output properly. Just don't skim it. Properly understand it. Read those output very properly. Try to see how the tone change, how was the management has promised in Q4, Q1, Q2, and see what are the important parameter which is really affecting the company and the numbers. If you do this, I can guarantee you that your con call understanding skill will improve massively. And trust me, it will help you immensely frame a decent business thesis around that company. With this, if this video helped you, hit that like and subscribe button. And in next video, we'll try to further expand under the same umbrella of fundamental analysis, and we'll try to cover some more topics. Till then, take care. Bye.